Alison, now, a lot of people know you from Forrester Boyd, but the key thing that I'm interested in talking to you about today is marketing. Some people might find that strange, but you are the chair, let me just get this right, of the UK200 Group Marketing Taskforce. Is that right?
That's correct, yes.
Outstanding. So I want to dig into that marketing brain of yours a bit. Let's get straight to it.
Okay.
Small businesses have been trying to get it right with marketing forever. Getting in touch with their audience is key for them. But the world's changing really quickly. So if you were to speak to the small businesses in this town, what would you say? What would you advise them as the first thing that they should be considering?
Understand your audience. I think more than ever, the demographic of audiences has changed so much. And I think when we hit the pandemic, that kind of shifted. And I think there's never been such a big difference between the younger generation and the older generation as there is today, especially with technology and the way it's advanced.
That's really true. The levels of attention that people have seems to have shifted a lot.
Definitely. And how to find people as well. Once you know your customer, where are you going to find them? So are they on Facebook? Are they on LinkedIn? Are they on Twitter or X or TikTok? There's so many different platforms and ways to reach people now. So I think it's understand your client more than ever before and get closer to them.
Yeah, that's really important. I think that because they've got so much choice now, you need to understand those choices, I suppose.
Yes, yeah, and it's about authenticity as well. If you're not authentic, people know. You see so much now on social media, and it's overwhelming when you see threads coming through and things that are put in front of you and then pushed out. So I think it's important more than ever that not only do you understand your audience, but you're also tailoring your content to kind of their unique needs.
And those audiences and those platforms seem to be changing a lot quicker than they ever were before. There was a time where you choose a magazine or a newspaper and you pretty much knew the readership of that magazine. It would stay like that. But platforms now, Facebook used to be the place where you go to get young people, and that's not the case anymore.
No, now it's full of kind of my generation, should I say? I'm not going to say older people. But no, it has changed. A lot of the younger people are now on TikTok, Instagram. Facebook is kind of shifting as well. I've seen a lot of shifts just recently. Always LinkedIn has been the place where people do business, but I think a lot of that is now shifting across and you're getting more engagement from Facebook because LinkedIn has just become so saturated.
Okay, yeah, it does seem to be changing also rapidly. It's not what it used to be when I first joined LinkedIn.
Yeah.
So how do you keep on top of that? How does a business keep on top of the changes in those platforms?
It's difficult. There's so many different platforms. It's just analyse your data, make sure that you're looking at who's engaging, what's your most engaging content. Is it static images? Is it carousels? Is it video content? A lot of people are saying now short form video content is the way to go. But if your audience isn't connecting to that and relating to it, then you're spending a lot of time creating video for no reward. So understand the data, look at the analytics and make sure you really drill down.
And those are really available now, aren't they? Analytics and data more than ever before.
Yeah. Digital just really opens that up to a whole new kind of realm of analysis that you probably wouldn't have got through traditional marketing media.
And you raise an interesting point about the trends like short form videos, and you hear a lot about that now, and at least for the next 3 months, and then it might become something else. But you're so right. Sometimes it might be the trend, but that's not necessarily the trend for your audience.
Exactly, yeah. And it's I can't stress enough, it's about knowing your audience. So really make sure that you understand them. And I think for businesses, it's understanding if you have a niche or if you can identify a niche within what you do, then use that to drive your engagement.
Right, okay. I've heard a lot about niching as far as marketing goes, that rather than trying to take the shotgun approach to get as many people as you can, really honing in on specific areas of interest. Is that what you would advise? Yeah,
because you can't be all things to all people. It's like even me as a marketer, I kind of have a broad knowledge, but I can't do everything. I'm just one person. So for a florist, for example, you can't sell flowers to everybody. So is it businesses and you want to get them on receptions, or is it the postal deliveries that you're wanting? Have a look, and is there a particular niche that you can really grow your audience?
Right, okay.
And that's probably one angle that you can look at.
And you mentioned earlier being authentic. That's a word that keeps coming up now a lot. And sometimes people are being inauthentic in the way that they're being authentic. So what does that mean to be authentic in marketing?
I think it's understanding people do business with people. There's so much AI-generated content out there today. Everybody thinks that AI is the answer to all of their problems. It's their new marketing assistant. It's their new HR person. It's their new law firm. It's not. It's a tool to help. And people need to remember to use it as a tool, but then look at that content and make sure it reflects who you are and your tone of voice. So people are going to see through it. They can look at content today and see that it's been generated by AI. So it's about that authenticity. And I think platforms like LinkedIn, for example, you definitely need to show your personality.
Yeah, and that's really hard to do when you're worried about putting out something that is really about you, I suppose, and does it have an impact on the potential that you might have for an audience. But I suppose what you're saying is if you're not authentic, or if you are authentic, you'll attract the right people. And those are the only people you want, because if you know your audience, that's who you'll be talking to.
Definitely. And I think it's that balance of personal brand versus kind of firm brand as well. You can communicate and raise brand awareness through your brand, but I think you also need that personal brand as well, those individuals to raise their own profiles. That's
an interesting, that's another new thing that's come onto the scene, isn't it? Personal brand, along with authenticity.
Yeah.
We've never had to think about our own personal brand before. So, that's really, how do you work that? How do you plan to develop your own personal brand?
I think it's understanding what your skills are. How can you help somebody else with information that you can share? It might not even be in relation to the work that you do. For example, I work for an accountancy firm, but I'm a marketer through and through.
Yeah.
So if I'm putting out content or an opinion, a lot of the times it will be about marketing and not necessarily about the firm that I work for and about accounting. I'll do that at a firm level, but at a personal level, it's about what I can do to help people.
Okay, and that's the idea of putting something out that adds value to somebody else, rather than, someone once said to me, there's a difference between marketing where you're broadcasting and marketing where you're adding value. You're giving something in order to bring people in. And I suppose that's really what you're saying. Give something in order to get attention and get the audience back.
Yeah, I think it's about building that trust with people and them knowing that you're that right person to go to. If they can see that you've shared some really valuable nuggets of information, then they're going to come to you when they need that kind of support.
Yeah.
It's like kind of in olden days, it was loss leaders. People used to have loss leaders and they would quote for work to get that work in on the hope that they would get more from it. And it's the same with advice.
Yeah.
So if you give valuable advice, then it will come back twofold.
As long as it's meaningful and real advice,
Exactly.
Not just a marketing gimmick, I suppose.
Yes, yeah, definitely, yeah.
Now, you mentioned the word trust, and I have observed that there's been a lot of erosion of trust, so particularly over the larger brands, larger institutions, I suppose all the way through to government. There's a lot of a breakdown of the idea that you can trust a brand because of who it is. And I suppose that's where local or smaller businesses can step up and show that they've got something new or different to offer. So how would you approach that? What's your thoughts about trust in brands?
I think trust has broken down in a lot of ways. We go back to kind of the fake news. So fake news has been out there. Everybody's been shouting about it. You get the media shouting about fake news. Add on top of that and layer onto that AI. You look at a lot of images that are out on social now and they're AI generated.
Yeah, frightening.
There was a post the other day I looked at and it was an Italian travel company on Facebook. And the photograph, when you looked at it and looked closely, you could see it was AI generated because there was a sun lounger and it had limbs on it. Not a person, but just limbs.
Right.
So it looked like an amazing photograph to try and attract people to get them to want to book and go to that area of Spain. But there's so much out there now that's false and fake.
What?
So people are a lot more skeptic.
And it used to be you could believe, if it's on a photograph, well, that's pretty much, you can believe it, or a video even, you could believe it, but that's not the case anymore.
No, definitely not. And it's quite frightening in some respects. You've got to be very careful when you're engaging with content now, because is it true? Is it false? Is it a scam?
Yeah.
So this is where the local kind of connections and those businesses and people that you know and those relationships really come into play.
Yeah, so it all mixes together really, doesn't it? Someone down your street that you might be able to see, a real authentic offering or some added value, and then what you're saying being authentic and real and trustworthy.
Yeah.
And you can get that locally, whereas it's really difficult to get that back from a large brand that's kind of faceless, really.
Yeah, they have to work 3 times as hard, don't they?
Yeah, well, they will do now, but that's of their own doing. Some might say, I think. Okay, so now we've talked a little bit about AI in a lot of those conversations. So let's just explore that a bit, because you never hear anything other than AI when you're talking about marketing. It seems, whether it's from people down the pub or somewhere else, but it seems to be dominating and being seen as an easy answer to, well, pretty much everything, from videoing through to writing good copy. You're a marketer, you're a professional marketer. What's your thoughts on AI?
AI is amazing if it's used in the right way. I constantly have arguments with AI on a day-to-day basis. You have to ask it the right questions to get the right information out of it. But I think the main thing is, remember, it's just a tool. It's just there to help you. It can't replace creativity. It can't replace authenticity. It can't replace that trustworthiness. So you've got to have that personal interaction and that personal touch on your marketing to make sure that it still works. It is great for kind of idea generation, bouncing ideas off and brainstorming. It's like having another member of a marketing team. But it also hallucinates. It is like an errant child, so don't expect it to be good all the time. I constantly tell ChatGPT off. I have arguments with it on a daily basis to the point that it's had a P45 and I've sacked it numerous times. But yeah, it's take it with a pinch of salt.
Sorry, you've sacked ChatGPT?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah,
Oh,
it lies to me. It tells me lies. So yes, it's been sacked. But then I take it back on again the next day. So
well, it's
all's
very
forgiven.
generous of you.
Yeah.
Yes.
But no, there's some great tools out there. Not just ChatGPT. There's lots of other things. Copilot is coming to the fore now. If you're wanting to do data analysis, it's a tool that can help you to analyse your data.
Yeah.
So the time that it can save, it's making people more efficient, which means you get more done in a day than you ever could before.
I see that, and it's interesting you refer to it as a tool, because that's kind of what it is. Some people laud it as the changer of everything, but really it's just another software tool that's drawing information to us. What do you think is the biggest mistake? I mean, ChatGPT is the thing that got out there. OpenAI launched that way ahead of anyone else. Yeah. So how do people use it at the moment, and where do you think the mistakes are that people are using?
I think the biggest mistakes are when people are not drilling down to the responses that they've got. It's about prompt engineering. When I say that, I mean asking a question, but then phrase it in a different way, and then digging into that question more and more and more. And the more you ask and the more you hone the responses that the AI is giving you, the better the result you'll get.
Okay.
So it is about making sure that you've told it what sort of firm you are, what's your tone of voice, what type of response you're wanting from it. Is there a particular reason for it? Are you asking it for information about an event? Who's the target audience?
Okay.
So the more you can give it and the more context that you give it, then the better the response will be.
So that's where the skill lies, really, doesn't it? In your prompting of it, of the questions you're asking, rather than deciphering what it's saying, I suppose.
Definitely, yeah.
That's it. Yeah. We don't talk about that enough, do we? How you're asking the question. Yeah. And I think you're right, it's a tool, so therefore it'll only respond to the way that you ask the question in the first place. Definitely.
I think when AI hit the scene kind of, was probably about 2 years ago now when it first came out, a lot of people thought it was going to replace jobs and there wasn't going to be copywriters anymore. And I think it's a bit like when email came out. Everybody thought they were going to be out of jobs. Who was going to do the post? We know that we've kind of, used email now as a tool, and we wouldn't be without it.
Yeah.
We wouldn't be without the internet.
Yeah.
AI is exactly the same. So it's just another shift in the way that we use technology to our advantage. It's just making sure we use it the right way and not the wrong way.
Yeah, and that's always been the case with everything, emails and internet and everything, I suppose. And circling it back to what you were saying about knowing your audience, I suppose there must be tools, AI tools rather, that can help you do that, because it can do it lightning fast and look at the data that you've got coming in and turn it into something meaningful.
Definitely. But I would say if you're ever putting any data into any AI, make sure that you have an account and you're using a private account. Because if you put it into mainstream AI, it's going out and everybody can access that data.
Oh, okay.
So
Good tip.
whatever you think is your competitive advantage from that information that you're putting in, if you're putting it into kind of the open AI, then everybody else has got access to that same information.
Okay, so what you're learning is just sending it out to others to learn, your competitors to learn.
And also be very cautious of kind of the information that it's telling you, because you need to dig into the source. Where's it got that information from? I asked it once, I was doing an article on mergers and acquisitions, and I asked it if there was any data out there from last year with regards to the number of mergers and acquisitions in the UK. I could have gone and got the information from the ONS myself, but it would have taken time, and then finding the right resources and digging into that data. So it gave me a response, and I asked it for the source of the information because it hadn't told me. And it told me that it was a report, gave me the name of the report, said it was on PwC. When I went to PwC's website, there was no such report. And when I went back and said to ChatGPT, can you please give me the URL for the source, because this report doesn't exist, it apologised profusely and told me that it would just made up this figure. So you can't trust it. And this is where it comes down to kind of pushing to get that source and where did you get the information from?
Goodness me.
Because it will hallucinate and tell you
Even
lies.
AI isn't being authentic to itself. I mean,
It's
what's
not,
going on?
No, it's not authentic.
Oh, well. It always, no one can take that responsibility away from the individual person, can
Definitely
it?
no. And that was another day that I sacked ChatGPT.
You've sacked ChatGPT so many times now, I imagine. It's probably quite wary of you.
I know.
Yeah. Okay, so there's a lot going on there and a lot for us to learn. But let's just come offline for a minute, because one of the other things that I recognise, particularly for smaller local businesses, is the need to be able to stand out from the crowd a little bit more, because it's quite a noisy place now. Whatever sector you're in, it's noisy. There's lots going on. So offline, how do you have any thoughts about how could a company, a business, regardless of whether it's a bakery, a hairdresser or an accountant, how can they make sure that they are seen as a cut above, or that they're seen to stand out from the horde or from the pack in their sector?
It's difficult, isn't it? It's trying to find that one little nugget which is really going to make that difference. It's about kind of your USP, what's unique about you. And sometimes that's really difficult to identify. Accountancy firms, for example, how do you differentiate one from the next? So it's about kind of looking inward. Research, speak to your clients, speak to your customers. Why do they come to you? What makes them return to you? What makes you different? And why do they kind of see that? You'll get so much from talking to your clients and understanding them.
Yeah.
And it's going back to that client experience again. Clients and your customers are the ones that have got that information that can really help you understand that.
So I suppose if you talk to your existing customers and know what their pressures are, and you find a common thread, and you do so, rather than just talking about it online, you do something about that, whether it be an event or some an offer of some open information or about that particular subject, then you're scoring, I suppose.
Definitely. It's like, what's their pain points? What keeps them up at night?
Yeah.
And what does your product or service do to help alleviate that problem?
Yeah. That's never changed, has it? I mean,
No.
regardless of all the modern things we've been talking
No,
about.
it's the basic principles of marketing, isn't it?
Yeah. Find out what people want, what their pain points are, and how
Exactly, and
how you can
deliver
change
something to kind of alleviate that, yeah.
That's quite, and it's, I suppose it's also, when we combine all these things, it's about being bold and being courageous, because you can't stand out unless you are courageous and you want to do something different.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people over the years have kind of spent a lot of time trying to kind of go viral. It's all been about, let's get viral, let's do something that will go viral. Viral will get you a lot of followers and it will get you a lot of attention. Is it going to build a long-lasting, authentic, trustworthy audience?
Yeah.
Maybe not.
Yeah.
You might all of a sudden overnight have gained 20,000, 30,000 followers, but how many of those followers actually want your product or service?
Yeah. So better to source, to research and source 10 lasting relationships than 1,000 followers on any kind of platform.
Yeah, it's the organic. You want those organic relationships. So you need people to follow you and to engage with you because they relate to you.
Yeah.
And I think that's the way that you make those connections and then convert them into clients.
Yeah. Okay.
And then you build loyalty that way as well.
Yeah, you do. And I suppose once you've grabbed their attention, if you have to deliver what you've promised, and that holds the retention of people.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you know, I remember someone telling me about in Nottingham, I think it was, this is in the 80s, a restaurateur launching a restaurant with no marketing budget. How dare they? I mean, it's just shocking. They spent it all on food and other things. And but their way around that was to they went round to every hairdresser salon within a 5-mile radius and gave invited them into the restaurant for a hairdresser's evening of a meal and wine and whatnot. And of course, everyone piled in. And all the restaurant owner said was, look, I hope you enjoyed this evening. It's all for you. All I ask in return is that you tell people if you enjoyed it. So, of course, telling hairdressers that and giving them a whole lot of your cards, what they do all day is talk to their customers. And he was filling his restaurant because of those recommendations. That's a novel way, isn't it?
It is definitely. Word of mouth travels very fast, and where does word of mouth travel quicker than anywhere else?
Yeah.
So
true.
it's definitely a really novel idea, but at the same time, it is marketing.
Yeah, it's definitely marketing.
Yeah,
that's what I mean. Marketing is not just the thing that you like an advertisement or something on a blog.
No,
It's everything you do, isn't it, to attract customers?
Yeah, and it's thinking outside the box sometimes. So it's not necessarily thinking about a client. I remember I did a campaign for personal injury, and they didn't want it to be about ambulance chasers. So it was like, right, okay, what can we do? So we thought and kind of linked it back to schools and prevention of accidents. So where's one of the places where you get lots of accidents? Outside schools. We need to protect the children. So we got the children involved to do some posters all about road safety. And then we ran that competition throughout a load of schools, and the winning one, we supplied them with some big banners to go outside the school with their design and gave them all high-vis vests with the logo, the company logo on. So it was kind of reverse psychology. So trying to prevent the accidents rather than kind of, because they're the ones that see kind of the end result, what happens at the end. So it was that reverse psychology and brand awareness at the same time.
Well, that's brilliant, because I mean, some people might look at that and go, cynically and say, "Oh, you just do." But actually, if it's adding value, if you know, this kind of sums up all the things you've just been saying. You get to find out what matters to the people you're trying to reach. Then you add value and you do something about it, and then from that, you've built up trust and a name and a brand where people will come to you and grow your audience organically in that way.
Yeah, definitely.
That's a great way of looking at it. A great way of doing it.
Yeah.
And we could all do that. It's not necessarily the place for larger businesses to do that. It's just a bit of time to sit and think about your audience, I suppose.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. We've got one of our partners, and at the moment he's started doing net walking. So he goes out on a regular basis once a month, and he'll buy everybody a coffee. But it's just those relationships that he's making whilst he's doing that, and that's building. But it's just those building blocks, and those people that he's making the connections with then invite other people. So, it's just thinking outside the box sometimes, and it's not necessarily always about your product or your service. Yeah. It's how you can get that message out through other mediums as well.
And that's, but it all has that common element of delivering something that's of value to people, because that's how you build the trust, when you show authentically that you're giving them something of value.
Yeah.
That's amazing, really, isn't it? When it comes down to marketing, which is quite a cynical game at the best of times, sometimes, marketing really is and should be about genuinely finding out what you can do to solve people's problems, isn't it?
It is, yeah. Yeah,
for any
definitely.
company.
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah, I like that idea. That's a much healthier way of looking at marketing, I think.
Yes. Yeah.
Now you're well read in marketing, one would assume, with your credentials. So and everyone's whether they're reading it online or not, people are looking for sources of inspiration, and in particular, businesses with small budgets for marketing are looking for ways in which they can stand out, as we've discussed. So do you have any references for them, books or papers or a website or whatever it is on that you would say, go and read that because that'll start your process?
I follow things like McKinsey. They do some great papers and weekly emails that come through with insights for marketing.
Okay, it's McKinsey, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then there's also the Hinge Marketing Report, which comes out once a year, which is about high growth firms. For me, they're kind of my go-to resources.
Yeah.
Things like the Direct Marketing Institute as well. There's lots of newsletters out there that you can get coming through to your inbox every week. For something a little bit wacky and off the wall, I think one of the favourite books that I read a few years ago, one of my friends bought me, The Amazing Trollman. It's literally how not to do customer services.
Excellent.
So if anybody wants to look at that, and it was one that did go viral, but absolutely hilarious customer service responses. But definitely a fun read.
Excellent. What was that again? What was it called?
The Amazing Trollman.
The Amazing Trollman.
Yeah, I think I used to follow him on Facebook. I think he stopped posting about 2023.
Right.
And I think that's when his book became one of the best sellers. But my friend bought me it for Christmas and I just had tears rolling down my face.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That good?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
Hilarious.
Well, that's a good recommendation then.
Yeah, definitely how not to do customer service responses, but definitely fun.
Well, I think that and we haven't even started to touch on customer services as part of marketing. But yet, you can say everything you want to say, but if the minute someone walks into your business, they're not met with the same level of promise and excitement that you put out in marketing, it's all for nothing.
Definitely, yeah. And I think now, for the last year or two, customer service has been more important than ever. People's expectations have changed. They want information at their fingertips. They expect it. If you're not going to give it to them, they can get it from AI or a chatbot. Or you've got to be there. You've got to be accessible, and you need to be able to answer questions that people have as quickly as possible. So,
absolutely,
I think for any firm, it's about looking internally at your processes with regards to customers, and is that as good as it can be? Yeah, I'm sure we can all improve.
And developing the culture, I suppose, of your business, no matter how large you are, developing the culture that customer service is important. We've all been into shops, retail shops, where you're a bit like an interruption to someone's Coke by walking in there, and they detach themselves from the counter to maybe ask you what you want, and that's not really what when you've gone in to pay money, that's not what you want.
No, definitely not. I think there's that old adage, service with a smile, and I think it goes a long way. Whether you're in the restaurant trade or retail, even somebody answering the phone, you can tell the difference if somebody's smiling when they speak to you.
Yeah, you can.
And I think it's just about making that person feel valued. No matter what their inquiry is, no matter what they need, everybody is as important as the next person.
That's really important. Everyone is important as the next. It doesn't matter who they are.
No.
And it also stands on business to business. When you're going to see a client, the receptionist who greets you is just as important as the person you're going to meet. You should treat them in the same way.
Definitely, yeah.
It's really important.
Yeah, and never judge a book by its cover. I remember years ago when I was in the print trade and a gentleman walked in the door and looking at his clothing and everything else, you would think that he didn't have kind of halfpenny to rub together. But he was probably one of the most profitable people that you could have come across. You can't, as I say, judge a book by its cover. Everybody is the most important client, because even if they're not, they could tell somebody who potentially is.
That's the key, isn't it?
Yeah.
They've all got 10 people that they know.
Exactly.
And they'll be quick to tell them if you gave them bad service.
Yeah. So it's that kind of, they couldn't help me, but I know that they can help you. So they're going to refer you.
Yeah. Do you know, I'm reminded, I took my late dad, when one of his rare trips to London, visits to London, I took him, he loved books, And we went to the street of secondhand bookstores. Beautiful, floors and floors of beautiful old dusty books. And he could spend all day in there if he wanted to. And he went there and he'd forgotten his reading glasses. And that's devastating for someone who's going to spend all day looking at secondhand books, because you can't. And this store that we went into, it was a simple thing, a dirty old cardboard box lid, and it had the note, please take one. And inside was every strength of reading glasses you could. And they just said, well, no, if you've forgotten your glasses, it's fine. Take one of those, borrow them for while you're in here. That is showing, isn't it? That's saying something. It doesn't, regardless of every marketing campaign, that shows that you have thought about your customers and you care about them.
Definitely.
He always went back there. Every time he came to London, he went back there. It was amazing.
Yeah.
And that's really authentic, I suppose, authentic customer care.
Definitely, yes, yeah. And then you flip it on the reverse side and you look at some of the campaigns that have been running recently. We were having a discussion the other day, and it was, I don't know if you saw it, the latest Jaguar advert that came out.
No, I don't think I did.
So Jaguar have gone through a huge rebrand, and it's caused so much controversy. Their first advert came out and it looked like a clothing advert. It looked like it was going to be a fashion brand. And myself and Jamie at work sat there and we were like, what on earth have they done? Have they just literally...
Lost the plot.
Yeah. You look at Jaguar and it's always been a prestigious brand. It's got heritage. All of a sudden it just became kind of just we thought it was going to be a joke overnight. They've now started releasing other bits to kind of build on that. I'm still sitting on the fence. However, what it has done is it's caused controversy. People are talking about it. Has it done the job? Remains to be seen.
Absolutely.
But it's definitely an interesting one to watch and see where it's going.
That's causing shock is and making people. It works to grab attention. I suppose you have to follow through with something at the end. You can't just cause a shock. And
yes, yeah.
Yeah, interesting that.
Yeah.
And and again, it's thinking about how you can grab people's attention when you haven't got much money. I mean, grab people's attention, and then follow through with something that you can deliver. And I've seen great examples, or not so great examples, of things on people put on LinkedIn or on Facebook, videos of themselves doing something different, but the reason is to attract attention, but actually it's got nothing to do with their business. It's got nothing to do with the customers they've got, and there's nothing to follow it. They just did it to attract attention.
Yeah,
that's not the right way to go forward, is it?
Well, no. When you take it back to marketing principles, it's AIDA, isn't it? It's that you get the attention, and then you get the interest, and then you create the desire, and then you get the action.
Absolutely.
So you can get the attention at the beginning, and it's like I said before, you can get something that'll go viral. Is it going to get the action at the end? You need it to do that full circle.
Absolutely right. And that, I mean, that mnemonic has been around for a long time. It doesn't change, does it? Because that's what marketing is.
Yeah.
We just have different methods of getting there in the first place.
Definitely. Yeah.
It's a really important lesson for that. And the last question I wanted to ask you, because a lot of our businesses don't have marketing departments. They certainly don't have the benefit of someone as experienced as you are and knowledgeable as you are in the marketing field. So if they were thinking after listening to this, look, I need to take seriously my marketing, but there's me and Jennifer who works in the office with me. We need a marketing plan. Where would they start? What would you suggest that they do?
Depends on what sector they're in. That's such a broad question. They need to kind of look back, take stock of where you are at the moment. So what are you doing? How successful is it? Who are your clients? Can you group those? Understand those clients that you've currently got.
Right.
Where do you get the most return from your time? So is there a particular group of clients when you get more money from? If that's a case, then focus on them. Where are they? Can you get to those going forward? It's about really understanding your business inside out, understanding your clients inside out, and then adding that to what you do more of going forward. You can't do everything when you're kind of just a business owner or a couple of people working in a business with no marketing. But again, this is where AI can really come in and help you do it. Because if you ask it to give you the foundations for a marketing plan for a small retail business selling jewellery, it will help you and it will give you some ideas to how to do that. So this is where AI really can be a useful tool.
Okay.
But don't be afraid to experiment. And I think don't be afraid to try new things. Marketing will either fly or it'll fail. And it's very subjective. And it's all about trying things, isn't it? I don't think there's any right or wrong. We have a thing called A/B testing in marketing. And you trial different things to see what works. And it's about trying something and then just honing that down until you get the perfect recipe.
That's really important advice, I think. That the idea that marketing is either right or wrong, and you failed if it doesn't work, is that it's nice to blow that out of the water, because who knows what's going to work, and humans are fickle. They might not respond the way everyone anticipated them to.
Yeah.
But that's a really important lesson, that you must keep on doing something, keep on trying.
Yeah, definitely. And as I say, the A/B testing, try it with different people. Because if you've got a big client base, if you've got 100 clients, they're all going to feel differently about that piece of marketing or that piece of advertising that you do. And how they feel is going to elicit a response. And you have to keep honing that down until you get it right.
Yeah. Okay. Well, then that's... So you could summarize all of that. When you approach your marketing, the first thing, I think we said at the beginning, you got to get to know your customers, know who they are. And as you've just said, find out who the ones that are making you the most profitable, the best clients that you've got. And then figure out what they need, what they want, what problems you can solve. And then authentically, creatively, boldly start doing something. A/B it, as you say. Have lots of things going out there. Try different things till you find the one that works.
Yeah, definitely.
That's brilliant advice, Alison.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for that.
That's okay.
I think that if we can put half of those things into practice, I know I certainly will be when I get back to the office, then we'll be better at attracting the right kind of customers for our businesses. So thank you very much for that. Thanks for your time.
No problem.